All right. This is problem 9 of version 2 of the top 20. So this is one of the ones you're going to be doing as a worksheet, and I don't feel bad about helping you. I'm calling your attention to it because this was our first and second day of this class, was just trying to master these. What is that 2 common oopses that you think kids might do that day? Yes? Yeah. They're going to go, I want to multiply this in. It's not bad to multiply. It's bad to multiply first. What should be done first? Yes? The exponent. And then tell me a common mistake on the exponent part. Yes?
They do x squared plus 3 squared.
Yep. X squared plus 3 squared. And they should x plus 3, x plus 3. And then once they finish that, which is going to have 4 parts, you simplify it down, and what's the next step after doing this part all the way out? Yes?
So the answer is...
Don't tell me the answer.
So then you multiply it by 2.
Then you multiply everything by 2. Why did you do that? Why can't I just add the 8 and get it over with? Because of the PEMDAS rules. You got to wait for add, subtract till last. Okay, so after I have multiplied all of that by 2, then at the very end, I will add an 8. Okay, get the idea there? That kind is really important. Another kind. Did I, remind me, because I lose track between my classes, which ones I covered and not. Did I talk about the kind where you got 2 points and you needed to find their slope? 2 points giving you a slope, and then eventually writing an equation for the line that goes through those points? Did I talk you through that one? All right, find it on this sheet. Which one is it? Problem number what? Has 2 points and they want an equation for it. Number 1? Would you please read me number 1? Could you read me the 2 points? Negative 1 what? Thank you. For those 2 points, if we want an equation going through them, the first thing we need is their slope. Because you know when it's done, your equation could look this way. And you know how you need the slope to be able to do that? And then you need the y-intercept. Or your equation could look this way. I really hope I talked this over with you yesterday. Does that ring a bell? Okay, good. You do need to know that one. All it is a rearrangement of the slope formula, which is like this. Know what I mean? That's the slope formula. And we just rearrange it to look like that, and that becomes a special thing called point slope. Why? Because it's got the slope, and it's got a point here and here. All right, and then there's one last kind I need to talk over today, and that's you can have equations where the x is in front, like if I put this over here, and it would be negative 2x plus y equals negative 5. That's got a special name too, if I remember it. Yes? I can tell it rings a bell with you. Can you think of the name? Yes? Yes? What do you think? You are correct. It's standard form, where ax plus by equals c. Very good. Notice the x is first, the y is second, and then lastly we have what's called a constant. It doesn't have an x or a y. All right, one more thing about this. If you had this, it's in standard form, but would you please tell me what you think is wrong with it as far as standard form? There's something goofed up and therefore not acceptable as standard form. It's a small thing. Thank you. Yes? There cannot be any fractions. So everybody take that one and please fix it. How do you get rid of that fraction? And don't say add it to something else you don't. You just have to do something that makes the fraction disappear. I'm going to pause for a second and have you try that one. Okay, please tell me that you multiplied by 3 and that you just can't just do it in one spot. That changes the equation totally. But if you do it in every spot, it's okay. It's kind of like this. Would you agree that 4 plus 3 equals 7? I can't just take and times this by 2 and have it still be right. But I can times everything by 2 and it will be. 8 and 6 makes 14. Get the idea? All right, I can multiply everything by 2 if I want, but I can't just multiply one little part of it. All right, so I'm multiplying everything by 3, and this cancels 2x plus this makes 12y equals 15. And why is that any better than it was in the first place? It's still standard form, except now its coefficients, I'm just using math language here now, are integers. Coefficients are the numbers in front of the variables, and we want them to not have decimals or fractions. So that's called integers. Integers, the only difference between a whole number and an integer is that integers can be negative. Whole numbers can't. Whole numbers technically start with O. Whole, has an O in it. It starts with 0 is a whole number. The first whole number is 0. So if you want to include negatives, you say integers. Yes?
What I did,
Did you get, hold on. I believe there's other ways, but just when you're done, did you have 2x plus 12y equals 15, or did you have something else? All right, and tell me what it is, and I'll see if it's right, and then you can tell me that other way.
I have x plus 4y equals 5.
And you are right. So I will now let you tell me that other way, and people can learn from it. Go ahead.
I divided each side by 2.
All right. Now, I agree that dividing by 2/3 also gets rid of your fraction. The only thing that scares me about it is you got to take 4 divided by 2/3, which isn't easy for a lot of people. But it absolutely works. You are correct. I'm going to stick with my standard advice is always going to be, and you're going to hear this 10 times in here. We're going to hit it 10 different times in the class. Oh, there's a fraction. Get rid of the fraction. How? By multiplying by the denominator. I used to always multiply by the reciprocal. This is multiply by 3/2. But then I realized that then I was making fractions in other places that I didn't need to. All I needed to do was really multiply by 3 everywhere. And I actually was told by the calc teacher that's what we do in calc, is we just multiply by the denominator. You don't try to do the flip and multiply thing. Yes?
Say the answer was 14 instead of 15. Would you be able to divide by 2?
Good question. So let's say that this one had a 14 at the end. So I'm going to erase the original problem. And let's say it looked like this. Equals 14. Do you remember me saying that if you can factor it, you should? There's a 2 in everything now, like you just said. So yes, there's a 2 in all of these things. So I could write this as 2x plus 2 times 6y equals 2 times 7. And then, just like you can multiply everything by 2, you can divide everything by 2. Now, you don't have to do this. She's just asking, could you, and still be right. Yeah, I can now, just like I multiplied everything by 3 a second ago, I can divide everything by 2. And then, cancel, 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 and it's x plus 6y equals 7. That would have been okay also. So there is more than one answer for standard form because you can reduce it. Okay, so if I gave you these 2 points, 2, 5, I want to keep them really simple to make your life a little better, 8, 12, I'd like you to tell me, not the distance between them. That's something did I tell you the story? The Fight Club? Or not? You'd remember it if I told you. Okay. So the distance formula is a Fight Club. But maybe I'll take a second right now and tell you, because this distance formula one, it's kind of fun because it teaches you about your brain and how your brain works. Your brain remembers stories way better than just formulas. Okay? Like for instance, I'm going to tell you a formula and see if you remember it without a story. And I'm going to tell you a story and see if that one sticks better. Here's a formula. This is the formula for a chord of a circle. If this point and this point were on the edge of a circle, do you get that the little line across there is called a chord? There's a formula for finding how long that chord is, and it goes like this. The chord is equal to, and don't write it down, because that would help you remember it, and I don't want you to. Chord is 2 times the radius times sine of theta over 2. All right. Now, that would tell you, based on the radius of your thing and how big the angle is, what the chord length is. All right. Now, that is a valuable formula. It'd be good to know for the ACT. But here's one that I'm going to tell you a story for, the distance formula. And I bet you at the end of the hour, everybody's going to know the distance formula from this story. All right, so you have to picture that you're in a big warehouse. So you walk into this big warehouse. Actually, the more you can actually visualize this and see it happening, the better you'll remember it. You walk into this warehouse, and it's dark and smoky in there, and there's all this yelling going on. And you realize it's a fight club. There's a fight going on in front of you. You can't really see the people fighting, but there's like people standing around it cheering, and you're like, whoa, I'm gonna go see what's going on. So you walk in a little further, and as your eyes adjust to the light, you can see that it's actually two X's. Like a giant guy in an X suit that's got these big X arms, and he's like trying to smack the other guy who's also an X, okay? And these two X's are fighting in this square. It's like a boxing ring kind of square, you know? And so you're like, man, I've never seen two X's like trying to hit each other before. That's a little weird. And as you walk further in, you see there's another fight going on in the back of the fight club. And as you're walking back there, you're like, oh, I just tripped on something. What the heck? What was that? And it was a plus sign on the floor. It's raised up off the floor, so it's like you'd never have noticed it because it's smoky and dark in there. And dang, you just stubbed your toe pretty bad. Have you ever stubbed your toe? Remember how that feels? Remember how it's like, ouch? You got to picture that because that helps you remember the stupid plus sign on the floor. And then you go to the back of the fight club and you see another fight happening. And what do you think's happening back there? A couple of Ys are fighting, and they like to fight with their tails because they have long tails. So like trying to smack the other dude with their tail. So you got to picture that because that's going to help you. The more visceral it is, the more like the little sounds you have in your story, the better you're going to remember it. And now you know the distance formula. And I bet you anything that 3 days from now, you'll remember the distance formula. Can anybody tell me that formula for the chord? Maybe one person remembers it.
Times radius times the sine over
Oh, you're so close. The
Theta over 2.
sine of theta over 2. You're really close. Okay, but only one person even attempted it. Maybe you could have got it too. I know there's a couple of people, maybe. But then again, I asked you the challenge that you wouldn't remember it, which actually improves the odds that you would remember it. So, back to the story. Can you picture that this is a fight going on between two X's? And they were in a square. I kept saying they were in a square all over and over again. Okay, and then what did you trip on? The plus sign. And then there's another fight going on between the Y's, and they were trying to smack each other with their tails. And then, again, it's squared. And they're fighting in a square. And that's the distance formula. And the cool thing is that you don't even have to remember which X goes first, because if you're going to square it, do you get if it's 2 minus 3 or 3 minus 2? Either one of them comes out to 1 or negative 1, and when you square it, it won't matter. So you don't have to worry about all the little picky details of which 2 comes first and which 1 comes first, because it doesn't matter. So it's just the 2 X's subtracted and the 2 Y's subtracted. The distance is a fight club. All right, so now you've got that formula down. So if you needed to find the distance formula, the distance between 2 points, let's do it for these guys. The distance here, here's the X's, they're fighting. Should I do 8 minus 2 or 2 minus 8? It doesn't matter. So let's do it the easy way. Yes?
the outer box.
That's a big square root of. It's a big square root thing. All right, so this is 8 minus 2, and this would be 12 minus 5. You might as well take the big minus the small. That's the easy way, right? No negatives to deal with. And so this will become 6 squared is 36. This will become 12 minus 5 is 7 squared is 49. And when you put it all together, 70 square root of 85. And that is the distance between those points. The fight club. Now, you're just much better at remembering things that are visual. I'll give you one last example of the proof of this. If you can make things into a story, you remember it way better. The guys that memorize a deck of cards, have you ever seen that, where the guy takes a deck of cards and he like looks through it and then he memorizes the order? Like they shuffle it before they give it to him, and he memorizes the order, and then he'll say what order they're in, like literally in 1 minute. I've looked at books, I've read the books about how these guys do it, and they are making a story out of the Ace of Spades and the Queen of Diamonds, and every card in the deck, they assign a character to it in their head. So they have memorized like the 3 of clubs. They picture like a tree, because that sounds like 3, with clubs in it, like you know, little clubs hanging from the tree. Okay, and then they make their story around, oh, the tree of clubs, this club tree, walks up to the 8 of hearts. It's like, and again, 8, it sounds like I just ate. It's like somebody eating a heart, which is very visceral. And anyway, they make a story out of it. And they can memorize the story, so when they're recalling the deck of cards, they're recalling a story. And then that's how they memorize it. All right, so that's people that can memorize 52 things in a row in 1 minute. How do they do it? Using visual memory. Okay, so I hope you remember the distance formula now. And now I'm going to go back to this other one and talk about what about the equation for the line that goes through these 2 points. Any more questions, clarifying stuff about what I just said? Yes?
Okay, so like x equals negative b, that one, what is that one?
All right. It's this one. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Is that the one you mean?
So, like, the one side of the longer.
Oh, yes, that's the quadratic formula, and that one, x equals negative b plus the minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a, is how you solve this kind. That's how you solve that kind. If you can factor it, you should, because factoring it solves it faster. But if you can't factor it, quadratic formula will always work. Whether it's factorable or not, the quadratic formula works, and that's the one you just said. So, all right. Back to this guy. This is the hardest one for today, is how do you make the slope and then put it into this little formula to find the equation for a line through these 2 points. That point and that point. All right, well, first of all, the slope. Everybody, please figure out the slope on your own. I hope you know how to do rise over run, the y's and the x's. If you don't, you can ask the kid next to you, and I'm going to ask you to compare with the kid next to you and see what the slope comes out to for this one. The slope is the y subtracted 12 minus 5 over 8 minus 2. Now, this doesn't have the same niceness of it doesn't matter which way. It actually does matter which way. If I start with the 12 and then subtract 5, I got to go back and start with the 8. That was like same as starting with this point, and then subtract 2. Now, you can do it exactly backwards and go 5 minus 12 and then 2 minus 8. That also would work. But if you switch one of them and not the other, your answers are always going to end up negative where they shouldn't be. The opposite of what they should be. Okay, so be careful. If you start, I always like to start with the very last one and then go backwards and then jump back to this one and go backwards. All right, so 12 minus 5, 7. 8 minus 2, 6. 6 is the slope. That means my equation for the line that goes through these two uses a slope of 7, 6. Where should I put that? M. M becomes 7, 6. And then only thing I have to do is stick the point in the right place. Which point, Mr. Server? Either one. This is a weird thing. It doesn't seem like you get the same answer if you put it in different numbers. But when you multiply it all out, you do. So I'm going to pick 2 comma 5. And I'm going to put the 2 here and the 5 here. Because x is 2 and the y is 5. Y minus 5 equals 7, 6. X minus 2. And first of all, you don't have to multiply that out. That's an equation in a special form, and it's good enough. Unless they say you have to put it in standard form, because is that in standard form? No. But it's in a form, it's called point slope form. It's really handy because I can tell the slope from it, and I can tell a point that's on the graph. It's sitting right there. It's 2, 5 is on the graph. I can tell from this. All right, so that's called point slope. Now, much more difficult, but possible, I can multiply it all out and get it solved for y. What's that good for? Slope-intercept form. You get if I solve it for y, it would be kind of nice because then I'd be able to tell the y-intercept from it. I already know the slope is 7/6, but at least I'd be able to tell the y-intercept. I'd like you to multiply this all the way out. Yes, I know there's a fraction in it. And by the way, I just showed you how to get rid of fractions a second ago. If you want to do that, you can. And get this thing solved for y. I want it to say something like y equals 7/6 x minus 1/2 or whatever it is. Solve it for y. This involves multiplying and algebra, and you're in algebra 2 right now, basically. So you got to be able to do algebra 1 stuff. Hint. When you multiply that out, you're going to get a fraction, and that's what's going to make your life icky. I told you a way that you didn't have to deal with fractions. So you could get rid of them. I'll pause. Okay, let's see how you did. 7/6 x, that should have been pretty easy. 7/6 times the -2. I personally would do it in my head, but I'm going to show you how you could do it. 7/6 times -2 over 1, because this would be over 1, wouldn't it? And then that's -14/6. Okay. Now, if we're trying to solve for y, I'm going to get rid of the 5 now. And that's where all the ickiness is going to happen, because I knew it was going to be y equals 7/6 x because I knew the slope. It's all about now adding fractions. Some of you are terrible at adding fractions. All right? To add fractions, you need to get a common denominator. Well, this one doesn't even have a denominator, so that means its denominator is 1. And I'm going to do it over here. -14/6 plus 5 over 1 to get a common denominator. Again, something on the top 20. Why? Are we going to be adding little fractions in here a lot? No, we add big complicated fractions in here. So if you can't add simple fractions, when you're adding big complicated mixed numbers together, you're going to really struggle. So we need common denominators. I'm timesing by 6. I want you to process that for a second and see why that's smart to get a common denominator. So it's 30 over 6 and -14 over 6. Now they have a common denominator, so I can actually put them together. Final answer, 16/6. And that's a positive 16/6, so plus 16/6. Now, could you reduce 16/6? Definitely. To what? 8 over 3 would be fine. The only thing that's nice about this is they have a common denominator between them. But, so I'd be okay with this, or I'd totally be okay with you saying 8/3. Yes?
So 7.
Do you agree it's 7/6 x? Okay. When I take 7/6 times -2, do you think I multiply the top and the bottom by -2? Is that what you were thinking?
No, I just did those stuff for the front.
Oh, well, you got a decimal probably,
Yeah, I just,
right? Okay, I'd like you to try, just logic this with me. 7/6 times -2. Let's just times it by 2. And then we can deal with the negative part later. How about that? Would you agree if I double 7/6? It should be 14/6. And then the negative thing means it's -14/6. Okay. In the back corner. I love it. You're exactly right. Remember me saying there's a way to fix this so you don't have to deal with the fractions? What did you do again? Yes. So I'm going to go all the way back up here and show you how much easier your life would be if you follow my advice about getting rid of fractions. And you did it. I'd love to hear that. So right here, at this moment, you should have noticed I have a fraction, and it's going to be a pain. So I'm going to fix it so I don't have a fraction. I'm going to times it by 6, because then that'll make this 6 disappear. But if I just times that by 6, that's not fair. I got to times all the individual terms by 6. That gets times by 6, and that gets times by 6. Then I have 6y minus 30 equals those canceled. And you might be saying, why didn't I multiply those guys by 6? Because this was all one term. That was all one term. There was no plus and minus separating two separate parts of it. All right, so then this is 7 times x minus 2. And I agree with you. From there, that is so much easier. No fractions to deal with. I'll just finish it so you can see how this one would have looked. 6y minus 30 equals 7x minus 14. And then I'm going to add 30 to both sides. 6y equals 7x. And if I add 30, I get 7x plus 16. And then I'm almost done. Now, dividing's easy. Divide 6, divide 6, divide 6. Y is 7 6x plus 16 6. Which can be reduced to 8/3. All right. I hope you've learned a couple things. One of which is this guy. And I'm not going to tell you a story to learn that one. I'm going to just remind you that what it came from was this. That's the slope formula. So it's just the slope formula rearranged. You need that one. If you don't know that one, on our test on Tuesday, you're toast. Not just going to fail, but you're not going to get an A. Yeah, you have a test on Tuesday. That's right. So it's okay. You got time. You got homework to do this weekend that'll help you get ready. Then on Monday, you got review. And then on Tuesday, yeah. And one of the things is that you have to be able to do with the stuff we just talked about. So let's sum it all up with this problem, except I'm going to give you 2 points again. You're going to find the slope. You're going to stick it in here. One of the points you'll stick in here, and then you're going to multiply it all the way out. Okay, and this time I'm going to make the slope nice so you don't have to deal with a fraction. Okay? All right, and I want you to be, when you're done, your answer should look like this. Because that's in what form? Standard form. I want the answer in standard form when you're done. Okay? I'll pause for a second while I get that point. Okay, here's your 2 points. 5 comma 6 and 10 comma 12. Give me the equation for the line that goes through those two and put it in standard form. I'll pause while you give that a shot. Okay, so first off, just make sure you didn't go too far wrong. The slope, 12 minus 6, 10 minus 5. 6 over, oh, poop. I thought it wasn't going to be a fraction. But did you get 6/5 too? All right, sorry. But do you know how to fix it so that it won't have a fraction now with the 6/5? Good. Do that. I really didn't mean to do that to you. I could have swore by doubling them both I was going to make it slope 2. No, I didn't think it right. I should have gone over. I couldn't do it now, but I don't want to change the numbers now. Okay. So now you have to trust me on this one. You can either choose 5, 6, or 10, 12, but the numbers are easier when they're smaller. So I'm going to use 5, 6. This is the Y spot, and this is the X spot. How many of you got that far? See, that is an equation. You don't have to put it into standard form unless they tell you to. That would have been it. On the top 20, you leave it like that. You're done. How many feel like you could do that again on the top 20? Cool, you got another one of the 20 things mastered. All right, so now, what was that thing I said you could do to get this so much cleaner? Multiply by 5. So I'm going to have 5 here, and 5 here, and 5 there, and notice it only happens once on this side, which I know is kind of weird, but that's considered all one term over there, so you just have to do it once over there. So it's 5y minus 30 equals 6x minus 5. And from there, I bet you can get it rearranged so the x's are first, and then the y's, and then a number. On the test on Tuesday, will you have to put them into standard form? Only if the problem says to. So I'm not telling you whether or not you have to. But I can tell you, you have to know standard form, because maybe the problem will be simpler and it's just here's an equation, put it in standard form. I'll pause for a second. Okay, so let me finish the deal. 5y minus 30 equals 6x minus 30. Then I'm going to get the y alone. So first step, add 30. 5y equals 6x. Ooh, this is a little weird, but it's right. Right? Okay, then divide by 5, and y equals 6x over 5. And the thing that's weird is there's no number after it. So if you want, you could put a plus 0 because that would, you don't have to, but that would be showing that you know that the y-intercept is 0. It goes through 0, 0. That's why this one looks weird. Yes?
Can you put 6 minutes and then the x after the
Okay, wait. So 6/5 x is the exact same thing, just to answer your question. And I'm not done with this whole problem. I just showing you if I wanted to get it solved for y. But what form did I ask you for? Standard form. So if I want standard form, now I'm going to rearrange this puppy and put the x part first. I could have done that better up here. I just frankly got a little lost in what I was doing. I was busy solving it for y, or I didn't have to. But you have to know that form too, so it doesn't hurt to see that. But what I really should have done, and I apologize, it probably confused some of you there, because I told you to put it in standard form. I should have moved the x over to this side and said negative 6x plus 5y minus 30 equals negative 30. And then I should have added the 30 to both sides. And I would get negative 6x plus 5y equals 0. There it is. In standard form. Okay, I know this is intense. It's not impossible. It's algebra. And if your algebra skills are weak, you could take that top 20 and do some work on that this weekend. That would help. And if you know, some of you know, that you only knew like 2 of the top 20, you could try that one I call Basic 20. It's the same exact idea, just with easier stuff. You know, start, like for me, do you think I'm ready to run a marathon tomorrow? Does it look like I'm ready to run a marathon tomorrow? Okay, so I'd have to start with probably, you know, taking long walks first, okay? And then I can move myself up to eventually taking runs, and eventually I'd be ready for the marathon, right? Some of you guys need to maybe go back to that Basic 20, learn those things. They got videos too, and get yourself in better shape so that by Tuesday you're ready to rock this test. I want to give you also a little lifeline. Remember that these tests do have a retake available for them. So if you do bomb the test on Tuesday, you can have a retake on it. That's not a reason not to study for it, because it kind of sucks to have to learn all the new stuff and study on your old retake for a week. But it's an option in case you bomb Tuesday's test. Yes? The X is supposed to be first, yes. Now, let's talk about your homework for tonight. I am going to, it's a Schoology quiz again. And I want to lower your level of concern on those from this perspective. A lot of kids have told me, I tried to type in square root 7, and then I just did this, forgot the end parentheses or something stupid like that, and I marked it wrong. I'm not going to be putting in scores off of Schoology. I'm going to be looking at your score off Schoology and saying, did they do a solid job on it? And if they did, then at least for the first quarter here, what I'm going to do is give you a 10 out of 10 if I feel like you did a decent job on it. So if you do it the first time and you really, like, you get half of them wrong or something, you're going to want to go back and do it over again so that you get a decent score. I'm not going to define what decent score is, okay, because I don't want it to always have to be whatever. If it's a really hard one, more kids are going to get more wrong. I just want to make sure that some kid isn't just going and turning in a piece of crap and getting 10 out of 10. I won't let you have that, okay? So that's for your Schoology quizzes. For your actual, like, normal worksheet kind of things, those will have a normal grade out of 10 and go in the grade book. The other ones are more about, did you finish your Schoology quiz acceptably? at a decent level. Can't just have finished it. Okay, so do your Schoology quiz over the weekend. You don't want to get behind at this point with the test coming up on Tuesday. And I remember, I won't be here. Mr. Winterhalter will be here and he'll give you that test on Tuesday. I will see you on Wednesday. Be really nice to me because I'll be super tired. I will have had no sleep flying home from seeing my son. All right, that's all I got for you for today.